it's just important to recognize that second generation is a different culture
Oh, yeah,
altogether.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think if you start there, that would definitely help. Maybe because, like, even with Filipino parents, there's this thing about, you're proud of where you came from, and you want to make sure you teach your children about your culture, and you want your kids to know your culture. But I think that's the problem with that is, your kids obviously are growing up here in the US, a different culture. And in reality, at least from what I've seen in most Filipino American churches, is their kids don't even speak the heart language. And so, if you don't understand the language, it's going to be hard to understand the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this desire within first generation Filipinos to have their kids understand their culture, even be proud of their culture. And I think a lot of Filipino second gens are.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just not to the level as first gen, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's good to at least recognize that these kids, sure, they look Filipino, they have brown skin, but they're not first gen, right? Like, they don't have the same kind of cultural understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can teach it to them, but like, I guess, like, the shared norms, the shared cultural expectations is not always there. So, for example, in a first gen, within first generations, you have these norms, these shared expectations of how you should behave when you're with other Filipinos. Like, for example, there's an older person there, you give way to the older person, right? Even when it comes to authority, or to speaking, or who gets to talk, or who gets to pray, or those kind of things. Like, even though they're very subtle sometimes, can't really expect that all the time when it comes to like second gen. I mean, there's other issues too, not just that. I mean, you can teach that, but it's kind of like I guess the way that I would think about it is like first generation maybe is built off of like Windows system, and then like second gen is built off of OS, right? Like, there's some commonalities, but in their core they're different.
It's a different OS.
It's a different like operating system, right? So there's things that overlap, right? They both can run a computer or something. I'm just trying to run off this analogy, but at its core they're like different. And I think that's kind of important to recognize.
That's a good point. Definitely more awareness of the cultural differences is always good.